Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of Wheel to Wheel Hot Lap powered by Jade Finance Australia. This week we'll be seeing our drivers race the Porsche 911 RSRs around Red Bull Ring. As tradition in Wheel to Wheel, we'll see a few wet races here and there, with race 3 especially heavy rain should the weather play ball. This week I am joined by Division 1 driver from 13R Autosport, Captain Lowside. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, thank you, Chris. What a wonderful time to be around Red Bull Ring. We have no idea what the weather's going to do. Surely it will bring some spice to this weekend's races.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, race 1 will be doing 6 laps on soft, race 2 will be 8 laps on mediums, and race 3 will see the softs and hards available with no mandatory tires. But as I said previously, there's going to be some rain in the mix. So yeah, a lot of unpredictability. Like to see it, right, Kat?
Yeah, look, I'm absolutely keen. So far this season, we've had a pretty much a locked-in schedule for our strategies, and really people do a lot of practice and then you get to race day and this is what happens. So the unpredictability of Red Bull Ring and it becoming quite wet is going to open up just the option for all sorts of strategy, and you can never really bank too hard on knowing when the rain is going to hit. So it should produce some interesting results. A lot of thinking on your feet.
Yeah, practices will be thrown out of the window come Sunday. But what is predictable are some very fast lap times from yourself, Cap. Let's get straight into your hot lap.
Yeah, wonderful. Let's kick it straight off. Alrighty, on for our hot lap in the Jade Finance Australia green Porsche 911 GT3. We're here at Red Bull Ring. It all starts on this last section of track here. So let's jump on inside and see where to maximise your track time. Red Bull is unrelentless in its penalty handouts, so definitely keep it within the white lines. I'll point out a couple of markers we need to be careful of as we go through the lap. So, getting a good run through this corner will maximise your speed through the last corner, which in turn helps in your Sector 1 times on the run down to Turn 1. So be easy on the steering through here. You can see I made a couple of corrections. I'm going to use all of the curb on the left there, but still keeping it within the white lines. The track limits is considered the white line there, not the edge of curb, so do keep it tight there. We'll be wanting to look for the yellow curbs right about here. My cursor is all over the place. You want to be looking for those yellow sausages on the very left-hand side there as a rough turn-in marker, and to provide a good consistency there as they don't change with shadows. So jumping down, and you can see I'm just turning in there. Now the yellow sausage on the inside, I nail it just on here and it doesn't unsettle the car too much. If you're a little bit further right, it can unsettle the car too much. In turn, that launches you out far left and gives you a track limit penalty. So you can see I just hit that through there, using all of the curb on the left with the left-hand wheels on the run down past the start-finish line on my way to Turn 1. Now you're looking for the 100-metre board. Just past it there, you're looking for the 100-metre board. There's a white line as well which marries up to it. These are corner markers which don't change with weather or temperature either, so you're not having to rely on a shadow. Using all of the curb on the left-hand side, heavy underbrakes, turning in at about the 25-metre mark. You want to avoid this sausage, the yellow sausage on the inside, but use most of the red and white curbing. You can see I just nip it there, which unsettles the car, and then sends me out just a touch too wide, but I'm lucky to avoid a track limit penalty. Try and keep it with inside the white line here and not the yellow curbing, but you can use a little bit of it. If you want to run the gauntlet, then it is certainly an opportunity to gain a couple of tenths on the run down to Turn 2 and Turn 3. So you're wanting to rev this car out. Fuel saving isn't too much of an issue this weekend. Under these bridges, sticking it nice and tight left. You're looking for the curbs on the left-hand side here and the 100-metre board. You can see the white line. Using that as your braking marker, hard on the brakes there, all the way back down to first, turning in just before the end of the red and white curbs. Now I flick the car into second gear here, especially on the mediums, and you'll see I give it a good bout of correction here to try and catch a slide. That corner is absolutely notorious in mid-rear cars and it will bite you every time. So take extra caution through there. Just be prepared that you will need to catch a slide as it will flick on you at the drop of a pin. Now back into second gear and hard on the throttle as we go under the AMS excavations, is what I'm going to call it anyway. Bridge there, on the run down to turn 4, basically straight lining this as much as you can, depending on if you're in a battle or if you're looking for an outright lap. Now the red and white curbing again, you're going to be using that as best as you can. Looking for that 100 meter board is just outside of view on my screen there, but running down into turn 4, brake at 100 meters using all of the red and white curb on your left, braking hard, back up to second gear. And turning in just before the red and white curbing ends. Take a little bit of a late apex there, you can brake fairly late, and roughly at that yellow line that crosses the track, you can think about putting the throttle back down, running out all that left-hand curb there, keeping it nice and smooth on the run down this left-hander. Braking at approximately the 50 meter board, and you are wanting to not use full brakes here, otherwise it will unsettle the car and it will make you slide and lose time and potentially even spin out. So light application of brakes here, turning it in nice and gently, just a touch of throttle as well to keep things balanced. Do not run out too wide here, keep it middle of the car, the curbing, the middle of the car here, otherwise you will get a track limit penalty. Brake at the end of the curbs here and turn in relatively late. Use all of the curb on the left and keep it nice and smooth, hard on the power all through this section. Running out far left here on the run down to into this final section. Now you want to be braking roughly 75 meters. It depends on your speed into the corner and your overall pace. Do a couple of test laps, figure out what braking marker works for you. There's no real set marker on this track at the moment as it is at the 75 meter mark, or maybe just a touch after, maybe 65, 70 meters if you're feeling brave. Again, this is not a circuit, this is not a corner where you need to use full brakes. Light application, back to third, using a little bit of a curb there, probably a touch too much for myself. Running down into this final corner again, you're looking for those yellow double sausages on the left hand side. Just before them you can turn in and you see I just completely missed my braking marker, brake a little bit too late. You run out far left using all of that curb, revving out into third, into fourth, crossing line for a 1:28.980. Now that's a reasonable lap on relatively cold mediums, but for pole position in Div 1, which is my division, you will be looking for a much quicker time on that, looking like we are going to qualify on softs as well. We've also got some forecasted rain this coming weekend, so you can see plenty of clouds looming in the background there. Patches of sun, patches of rain. It's going to present some very interesting racing. But reminder to keep your car within the track limits, mostly regarded as the white line, and focus on your corner exits. They will be where you are going to gain most speed and provide you with the best opportunity of an overtake of the car in front as well, with that slipstream advantage. Very quick track around Red Bull. Keep your wits about you and good luck.
Fantastic lap there, Cap. A lot of details you put in there. Thank you so much for showing us the ropes.
No, not a problem at all. There's many tricky points and a lot of track limits that can trip you up in this circuit, so definitely one to have your wits about you for sure.
Yeah, so what would you say is the most important corner around Red Bull Ring with the Porsche 911? Because I feel like turn 3 is going to be the most important and the trickiest, because it has the tendency to oversteer mid-corner.
Yeah, totally agree on that one, totally agree. Turn 3 is an absolute tricky one in these Porsches. Being mid-rear, they do like to over-rotate, and it's unpredictable. It gives you no indication of when it's going to do it, and it will just flick on you. So as you saw in my hot lap, I had to give it a good oversteer correction and catch that slide mid-corner. So a little bit of acceleration through that corner does help to stabilize the car, but it's really inconsistent still. So you've got to have your wits about you. And it can make a big difference on the run into and out of turn 2 as both an overtaking opportunity and an opportunity to be overtaken. So cover your insides if you need to, and make sure that you are getting your good exit and fending off attacks as best as you can.
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree on that. So this is the point of the video where we usually talk about strategy, but because there's going to be rain, might as well throw that out of the window. So sticking to rain, any tips on driving in the wet?
Yeah, the wet presents a big challenge. It's better being up a gear, potentially even 2 gears. So instead of exiting turn 3 that we're about to see here in say first gear, you can get away with it on softs. Mediums, you do tend to lose a bit of traction on corner exit. You just saw that oversteer moment again. And especially on wets, it is generally better to be lower RPM and just let the car rev up as you gain speed. So one of those situations where it feels counterintuitive to be lower in the revs, but it can certainly help to get that traction down and maintain your top end speed. But really, it's one of those situations where it's pretty typical of wet weather. Increase your braking distances, so instead of braking at 100, pull it back, try braking at 150, and the weather this weekend is really going to throw up a mixture of braking markers. So brake early and then give it a feel for the rest of your braking zone. If you think it's going to run deep, you can keep on the brakes. If you think you're braking a little bit too hard, it's always easy to ease off and catch back up again. So it's one of those things that you can go in too hard very easily. You sort of can't go in too soft. You can make that time back up pretty quick.
There you go. Some wheel-to-wheel top tips from Captain Lowe's side for driving wets. And to see how our drivers fare, tune in to our YouTube channel this Sunday at 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. We'll be streaming our races at those times. And as always, drop a like on this video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell, so every time we upload, you don't miss a thing. And thank you, Captain Lowe's side, for joining me for this week's Wheel-to-Wheel Hot Lap.
Not a problem at all. Thank you, Chris.
Pleasure for doing this, and tune in next week for another edition of Wheel-to-Wheel Hot Lap powered by Jade Finance Australia. Till then, take care.